Hi my friends, I'm Mike and welcome to the Lions Lounge, where today we'll be covering one of my favorite films in the Fast and Furious franchise, Tokyo Drift. And later we'll be making this cocktail inspired by it. Let's get into it. Now, before we get too far into the weeds, know that this is very spoiler heavy, so if you haven't seen the film, go watch it and then come back here. With that being said, your first question may be, why is Tokyo Drift one of my favorites, despite being the third film released, and also the only one to not feature Vin Diesel or Paul Walker as protagonists? Well, honestly, I think this deviation really does help it, as well as its fantastic setting. Tokyo Drift, as the name suggests, takes place in Tokyo, and features new protagonist Sean Boswell, played by Lucas Black, who, after being arrested for illegal street racing after school, is forced to relocate to Tokyo where his father is stationed, or be sent to prison as a repeat offender. In other words, this is his last chance. So this starts as a sort of fish out of water story. Only Sean's racing skills help him make fast friends with Tokyo's street racers, where he blossoms. What's interesting about this story as well is just how likable the cast of characters are. Sean is cocky, but also extremely interested in learning how to drift, the primary racing style used in the film. And after meeting Twinkie, played by Bow Wow, gets his first taste of defeat against the Lord of Drifting, the Drift King Takashi, nephew of an infamous Yakuza. Sean's loss also comes at the cost of a souped-up car lended to him by Han, partner of Takashi, who takes Sean under his wing, believing that if trained properly, the young man will serve as a counter to Takashi. And so begins Sean's journey into the world of drifting, which is a pretty fun montage that shows him greatly improving in both his skills and relationships with Han and his crew. Not to mention with his classmate, Neela, a foreigner like Sean, who also happens to be close to Takashi, and becomes another source for their intense rivalry. And as Sean starts winning races, this feud grows even stronger, with Takashi threatening Sean to stay away from Neela. At the climax of the film, Takashi is confronted by his Yakuza uncle with news that Han has actually been stealing money from him for some time. And feeling betrayed, Takashi storms Han's garage, infuriated to see Neela with Sean. The group manages to flee to their cars, where a chase ensues led by Takashi and his men. And when it looks like Sean, Neela, and Han will make it out in one piece, Han is T-boned and his car overturned, where it explodes before Sean can get him out. Having lost his close friend and newfound home, Sean attempts to escape with Neela, but is found nearly immediately by Takashi, who threatens Sean at gunpoint until his dad appears and Neela is forced to go with Takashi. Sean's dad intends to send him home, but Sean decides to return the cash Han stole to the Yakuza, and makes a request that he and Takashi have one final race. The winner gets to stay in Tokyo, and the loser must leave for good. Takashi's uncle agrees, and the night of the race is soon upon them. The location being a treacherous mountain, one where only Takashi has made it down in one piece, and where he earned the title Drift King. The race begins with Sean and Takashi trading places, but just as it appears Sean is going to take the lead, Takashi starts playing dirty, until Sean manages to outmaneuver him and cause the Drift King to go flying off the side of a cliff, allowing for Sean to cross the finish line as the winner and steal Takashi's title, now free to stay in Tokyo. And in one final scene as Sean celebrates, he's told of a racer who's challenged him, one who's an old friend of Han's, which it turns out to be Dom. The two smiling before the race begins. What's really interesting about Tokyo Drift is it was meant to inspire a series of films following it. And it kinda did, but as of Fast and Furious 6, it was retconned. Not as the third film in the series chronologically, but sitting somewhere between the 6th and 7th, with Han playing a greater role in the earlier films, and Sean returning in Furious 7 for a quick scene. And overall, I can say they do a decent job of tying it back into the greater narrative. While Tokyo Drift is different in many ways than the other films, I still really enjoy its tight pacing, characters, and especially the soundtrack. Having rewatched it recently, I really feel like it still holds up, and is probably my second favorite film of all of them. So if you haven't seen the film in a long time, I recommend you give it another shot. Now lastly, for my cocktail for this movie, I wanted to use a combination of Japanese whiskey, Midori, and a Matcha Honey Syrup. And while there were several cocktails I found doing my research for this video, none are quite like this. So without further ado, this is the Drift King. So this one is gonna be a shake and drink, so take a cocktail shaker and add 1 ounce or 30 milliliters of Midori. This is a Japanese melon liqueur. Next, 1 ounce or 30 milliliters of a Japanese whiskey. I'm using Toki. Then ½ ounce or 15 milliliters of lemon juice. And lastly, just a 1/4 ounce or 7½ milliliters of Matcha Honey Syrup. I'll leave the recipe for this in the description below. Add some ice and give it a shake for about 12 seconds. Then double strain into a martini glass. And for garnish, I'm gonna use this dehydrated lemon slice. So first off, why is it green? Well, if you've seen the film, you know why. Plus I like this dehydrated lemon slice because it looks like a car wheel. All right, let's give this a taste. Ooh, that is really strong. This is a really strange combination of flavors that I wouldn't say is bad, but it's kind of unexpected. So initially you get that sweetness from the Midori and a little bit from the whiskey, but then that very quickly fades into the matcha syrup. And when that matcha hits you, it hits you. And I think combined with the lemon juice makes it a very tart aftertaste. Like even now, it is a very dry sensation after having just 1 sip. Yeah, it's really quick. The melon to the matcha happens in almost an instant. It's kind of like you get some sweetness and then some tartness with the matcha and then a little bit of sweetness back and then just matcha. Now, is there a way to improve this? Well, matcha is a very strong flavor. So you could probably even scale it down from like a 1/4 ounce to like a bar spoon, if that. But if you're someone who likes matcha, I'd say it's pretty good. The one thing I possibly would do is scale up the Japanese whiskey a little bit because it does kind of get lost here. But overall, as I said, this is a very unique cocktail. I haven't had, honestly, any matcha cocktails before, so this was a good first attempt. But give this one a shot and let me know what you think in the comments below. As well as if you have any cocktails you'd like me to make from your favorite films or series. So today we made the Drift King, inspired by the Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you'd give it a like. And if you want to see more, go ahead and subscribe. If you want to see what I make outside this channel, follow me on Twitter at Mr. Space Lion or Instagram at Mr.Spacelion. But friends, thank you so much for stopping by the Lion's Lounge. I've been your bartender, Mike, and I hope to see you next time.